Welcome to Design TV. I'm Pamela Jaccarino, Editor-in-Chief of Luxe Interiors and Design. Today, I'm speaking with super stylish New York designer, David Scott, who is an aesthete if there ever was one. An avid collector of contemporary art, David is regarded for his discerning eye and his impeccable taste. David, it's so nice to see you. Welcome.
It's wonderful to be here, Pam, to be with you and to see you as well. You're looking great.
Thank you. Where are you? I'm going to guess that you're in the Hamptons.
Yes, I am. I'm in Watermill and I've been here since March 12th. So it's been a long time here.
And how's that been going, David? Have you really been sheltering in place, or are you starting to go a little bit out and about? Tell us.
Starting to go a little bit out and about. I think I'm in the group of people that are just, it's been too long to be cooped up, to not socialize, but we've been doing it in a very measured way, always with social distancing. The first time was a little scary. It was like, oh my God, am I gonna get it? You know, so there was a whole, you know, kind of panic thing that went on, anxiety, but I'm doing great now. I think that we have to learn for now how to do this, but not put ourselves at any undue risk. But I am going to see clients, and I just had an installation today in Southampton, and wore a mask all the time and social distanced, and it went really well. So.
Oh, good.
I'm adapting.
Good. I have a tip for you, David.
Yes.
So I have mostly been sheltering in place here in Florida. I have gone out just a few times with the mask, which I don't love. I'm also a girl that likes to wear my lipstick. So last Friday, I ventured out to see a designer friend who was working on a big project, one of the first times, and she gave me one of the shield masks, you know, like a plastic shield mask, which felt very bizarre when I put it on, but I have to say, I am recommending the shield mask.
So when you put that on, it goes on your head, right? And you just kind of,
like it just velcros on. It velcros on.
Like a headband.
Like a headband. I thought this feels very odd. And after about half an hour, you don't even realize that you're wearing it, you know, and it covers. So anyway, I'm just giving a plug.
I think, listen, I must have about 20 masks already. So I'll try the shield mask. I think that's easier because then you can see someone's expression.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yes.
It's really important.
I'm all about the I don't know what it's called, the face shield. Anyway, I wanted to ask you, you know, you are just such a great traveler. And so how has it been? Of course, now we're sort of like coming up and out a little bit. How did you deal with sort of staying home for all of that time, and how did you stay inspired, or did you stay inspired?
Well, so indeed, it is not easy to not travel as much, though I had been doing a great deal of travel before this whole thing happened. So I've resigned myself to saying that it's okay. Like, don't get the ants in your pants and the bug to go. And if I think the next travel I will do will probably be for work. And, you know, that's, you know, there's a reason in that course, but it's been hard, I would say, because I love going and experiencing. And as far as inspiration and which you asked about, I think, you know, I'm in the Hamptons, so it's a gorgeous place where we actually live on Mecox Bay here. So we walk out and look at the bay, and every day it's different, you know, the weather. And I love green, and nature is really a strong influence in my work. So I think that as far as inspiration, it has been fine. I think the personal contact, the engagement with my team members in my studio in New York, that has been much more difficult, to not have that connectivity. Even though we do everything on Zooms like this, and, you know, we're doing FaceTimes, and FedEx has arrived, like boxes outside my house. I'm building a whole library here because I never really had that here in Watermill. So the vendors have been great and sending us lots of things so we can continue to design.
Good. Yeah, I agree too. With, you know, I like, I actually have like a Zoom moment where I was like, I love Zoom because I've connected with so many people, but probably 2 weeks ago, I felt like I need to see, I really want to go into the office safely and see 1 or 2 people from the team. So we are sort of slowly down in Florida, able to sort of slowly go back. It's all, everything is weird. And I mean, my
Yes.
God, it's just bizarre that we're, you know, we're adapting to this new way of living.
But we're healthy. Let's
Yes,
hope to
thank
stay
you.
that way.
Yes.
And as designers and creative people, we adapt. You know, that's what we do. We do that
Yeah.
best, right? We create. We can design our way out of it. So
Yeah.
that's really the way. And I think in order to be a really successful interior designer, you have to have optimism. You know, you really need to be optimistic, planning the future for people, seeing the beauty. So if you can kind of keep that up, and I can't say that I have that all the time, because I'm just like everybody else. You know, the evening comes on, and then you turn the news on, and you see what, you know, the horror.
Well, yeah, I
And
mean, it is unlike anything that we've
yeah,
ever
so
seen in a
that's really
generation.
hard. That's really, really hard. But I'm grateful, you know, that I'm doing well. My family's well. My friends are well. So,
I'm
and you're
glad.
well.
Yes, yes.
How is your
So,
family? Is your family good?
everyone is good. I'm here with my husband. My younger son is home with us from college, and we're all, you know, doing great. Our 2 dogs are here, so
Good.
we're very happy. And you know, I've been on an airplane every week for many years. It feels like, and I actually have really enjoyed being in my home. So I
Right, like
feel
you
grateful.
slow down a little, right? You're not rushing to the next thing.
Yes.
So because of that, you do have that chance to, you know, sit back a little bit. There's not quite that, you know,
Oh yeah,
energy.
I'm actually taking like great warm Epsom salt baths at the evening and reading books that I otherwise would not read. But I'm missing the industry. I'm missing the last event really that I was at for the industry was the New York School of Interior Design dinner,
Yes, our dinner.
which was March 1st, I believe.
Yeah, yes, it was early March. Yep, March.
Yeah, so
And it was the last event.
it was the last big event in New York, I feel.
We were seated together.
We were seated together, yeah. So anyway,
Thank
here
you
we
for
are.
coming.
We will all be extremely happy when we can all, as an industry, I think, you know, get back together. I think we will. We may have events that go on till 4 a.m. and no one will leave because we'll just be speaking to each other.
Right, but you know, there are going to be virtual events as well. That are being planned too. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the same as hanging out at the bar.
Not the same. But David, I'm always interested and curious about, like, for designers who I know and love, like, when did the design bug strike? So I sort of want to talk about that. And I know you grew up in Westchester County in a home it was like California contemporary home. And you were very inquisitive as a kid and would ask your mom, which I read this and I love this, that you would ask her, like, where is that from and how much did it cost and where was it made? Which I was like, of course David Scott as a youngster would do that. And you also sort of, your Aunt Karen, you used her home as sort of like a little laboratory for your decorative pursuits. So, you know, talk a little bit about that time and how that, you know, how you caught the bug then.
Yeah, so it's fun to kind of look back and see that. So as a child, I was drawing floor plans. I mean, I just naturally drew them. I would look in the windows of either apartments or houses and be able to determine what the floor plan was, what room was there. I was definitely, you know, so spatially oriented and very interested in what was going on inside people's homes. And so over time, I was actually a rather, you know, academic, regular student. I didn't pursue art initially. And I went to a liberal arts college. And then I went into the hotel business, which I think, you know about. But prior to that, I was, you know, dabbling a little here and there. And I think that, you know, having family members that are supportive of you and want you to, you know, be expressive and part of their lives was really very nice. So, but I think that the real impetus and the real bug came later, you know, in terms of when I really made the decision to change from my hotel career into design.
What made you do that? You know, in other words, what you worked at the Pierre, you got to understand luxury and service, which is incredibly important.
Service is the most important thing. You know, I think that when you are trained in that way, which I was, Four Seasons Hotels ran the Pierre at that time, and I was in that program. And it was just incredible to learn the process of what good service meant, what it meant to be the customer or client versus you, the provider of service, and how you could still be dignified, but yet understand your role. And I think that that has played a big part in how I do business to this day.
Sure, absolutely. It's interesting. But you also, you started your bit, so you went to the New York School of Interior Design, and while you were a student, you opened your practice out of your home. Talk about that. And by the way, how did you get the first, what was your first project? Like, how does a student get that first project? It's like you're wheeling and dealing while you're in school.
So I was already in my late 20s.
Okay.
So, you know, I was more mature, and I was interning for an interior designer in Scarsdale, nearby where I lived. And she was a very good businesswoman, and not as, we weren't as aligned, let's say, design-wise, but I learned a lot about the business there. So that helped me when I was approached by someone. I had built a home in Westchester with my first boyfriend, Ron's name, and we're still very, very close. And he and I built this beautiful home, and I decorated it all. And so I had that kind of as a sounding board, this beautiful home. And when this opportunity presented itself, the client came over and saw the house and said, "You did this without any education?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "You know what? It's all good. Now that you're fully educated, let's go. It's going to be great." And so that's how I did it. I was really bold in the way that I just said, I'm going to do this. I always wanted to be self-employed. So that was a big impetus too.
Were you scared, David?
Yes. Yes. So what happened was, every hour I woke up when I went to bed, every hour I woke up from sleep, and I kept, you know, a notepad, sketchbook, and beside my bed, and a pen. And I woke up, and every hour-ish, you know, sometimes it was 2 hours, and I would either jot down the thing that I was worried about, the thing I had to remember, or a little sketch or something. So I just never stopped. I lived and breathed every moment design and business. And I think that I also had this incredible need to be successful. And
you're driven. You're driven.
Driven. Absolutely. No, I was not going to fail. So
I love it.
And I think that that is a large part of anything. You know, when I talk to young people, I always talk to them about drive is so much. And that doesn't mean that you put everything else in your life aside. you still have to have a well-rounded life. You have to travel, you have to have people that you love in your life, and pets and children and whatever it is that your dreams are, but you have to maintain that drive and that work ethic. And if you don't have that,
100%.
you cannot really be successful. You can do well, I guess, but you can't really truly be that successful.
I agree 100%. But it's also interesting because you had sort of all of the elements. By the way, there's a massive thunderstorm.
I was gonna say, is
If anyone
that
is
thunder?
hearing a massive thunderstorm, hopefully my power won't go, but there's a massive thunderstorm going on anyway.
Well, this is the
But
time of year in Florida,
I'm
right?
ignoring you because I'm staying focused on our riveting conversation, which is
Good.
it's interesting because you had all the elements, right? Which it's like certain ingredients. I mean, you had an innate sense of your passion for the floor plans and for Shack. You went and got schooled in the art of service on a luxury level. Shack. You went to go work for a woman who was running a business, so you learned how to run a business, which is such an important part of design as well. And
Yes.
then you're driven to succeed. I mean, that's like the
Well,
perfect
and I
formula.
also got a 4-year degree from New York School of Interior Design.
Yes. And
Yes, so
the education,
the education
and the
is
education, it was
critical,
the
and
whole
I love
package.
that. Yes, I was really lucky. It was like a synergy of all of that. And I think sometimes we are meant to be, it may take some time to become the person we are. Like you as an artist,
Oh.
you have, you have pushed yourself, and and you devote yourself to that, and you're getting better and better. But it takes, sometimes that comes later, right? You weren't
we're
always
all
doing
works in
that.
progress. Like
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in continuing to be curious, and you push yourself out of your comfort zone, and that's how you grow, and life becomes interesting anyway.
Risk. You have to take risk.
I'm not a good risk taker.
But you have to take it. Measured is good.
Measured risk. So the other thing I want, you are just, David, such an aesthete, you're just such a stylish guy in everything that you do.
Thank you.
Manners, your mannerisms, the way you conduct yourself, the way you look. How do you define great style? Is that something that that evolves, or do you think like that you're just subject to being surrounded by it when you're young? And talk a little bit about style and your thoughts.
We develop as people. I think I was always sensitive to those things. I always cared about things, the style of things, as you mentioned earlier. I paid a lot of attention, is what I did. And my mother had style, my aunt, people in my life. We had neighbors that were very stylish. I just remember being very observant, even my grandmothers, like just particularly women. I must say that, they were very strong influences in my life. And I think that you get a chance to kind of develop style over time, right? So you're exposed to things, you travel, which I think really exposed me, reading, really, and beautiful picture books too, like just the idea of the Slim Aarons books and that whole way of living that was so cool. And everyone was just beautiful, and the colors were exuberant, and everything just fell into place in such a beautiful way. And it also, I think style for me is it's individual. I mean, I really say that often to clients, like, I want to understand their style. I look at how they dress. I'm interested in that. And so in terms of my own, I actually have a fairly conservative dressing style, I think. It's kind of classic, and I don't, wear outlandish clothes. I think I did in the early 80s, in my old Fire Island days. But I think that, I prefer men who are, myself, who are a little more classic. And I think I like when women are a little bolder with their style. I think just the way I look at things. But I think style comes from a point of view. So it's education and really having a point of view, being critical of what you're looking at, how you carry yourself, and manners is a lot. And you mentioned
Yeah.
that before. And I believe that there's nothing better than good manners, you know,
Yes.
in many situations. And that kind of establishes an ability for you to be respected, and then, you know, you can then let go a little, and then you can really be who you are. Because,
Absolutely.
you know, so when I talk about, you know, personal style, I think it's that. But in terms of style in homes, I feel a little differently about that. I think that while it's all those things, I think it should be, I love eclectic homes. I'm not interested in one direction. You know, I want it all to have a thread. So,
Yeah.
you know, when I design, I always design with like, there's a thread through the whole house. You know, it's a lot of different things that create that. But I'm totally bored by if everything is one thing. You know, it's all English country, or it's all, you know, Italian modernism only. Like, you know, as much as I love all those things, I think that, you know, being an American, you're really a melting pot. You know, that's who
Yes.
we are. And
Yeah.
so the more we have all these different cultural influences in our homes, the richer it is, and the more developed style.
Yeah, it definitely makes it interesting. And we're, you know, we're exposed to so much. So I think the other part of it is we want to stay engaged visually.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about art, which is so important to your interior work. Tell us a little bit about artwork, and when you're doing interiors, how do you take your cues? I know that it depends on the project. Sometimes the art is sort of informing the project, and sometimes the project is informing, what art you're going to acquire. So talk a little bit about art, because I know it's incredibly important to your work, David.
Yeah, so I think that, art is really where the whole idea of depth and more than character, I think it's a whole perception thing, art. So it's transformative, right? So you lose yourself in something that was created and by one or two people, depending, I don't know how, what's involved in the process, but the idea that art is just critical to experiencing interiors in a really wonderful way. And we do get a lot of opportunity to work with great art collections. Yes. And also assemble art collections. I've curated many art collections for clients.
What's your preference, David? What's your preference, to start with the great art or work on assembling it, finding it?
That's an interesting question. I had a client come to me with a book of all of his art. That's all it was his art collection. And it was a little intimidating, quite honestly. Came to the interview, big file folder, loose leaf binder, actually. And we went through it, and it was all the most incredible photography, Cindy Sherman, and, just incredible works by the greatest. And I think that I was super stimulated by that, but I was a little like, oh my God, now I am the caretaker for this, right? I have to support, my design has to support this, the most important thing to him.
Yeah.
So that was a challenge. And but curating and exposing people to art and having them fall in love with something in front of my eyes and see the joy that comes from that, and then building on that collection is probably my most favorite. I think I probably enjoy that because I'm very emotionally driven. So
yes,
there's that experience of art that is not like a chair. I mean, as much as I love, and there are beautiful, beautiful things. Please, I'm not diminishing the decorative arts, but it's not the same as a painting.
It's not as emotional. It doesn't. You can look at art and really it touches you in a way that's very different than we do get excited by chairs, but
Yes,
I understand.
and now there's so many great artists working in the decorative arts medium and design.
Yes,
And I was just with one today, Caleb Woodard, who you know about, I'm sure,
yes,
the incredible woodworker. We commissioned him to do a beautiful buffet for a home and a dining table, and to work in that process with an artist like that, that's amazing. You know,
yes,
so when I don't mean to diminish what we do, but
yes,
there's just something about a painting, and you just walk in and you look at it, or a photograph, and you're just lost in it, or you just have all these experiences with it, you know. And it's just, you know, wonderful. And this thing that I'm it's much easier for me to like get a new chair or a new sofa than it is to get a new piece of art. I seem to hold on to my art.
and it's an original, one of a kind. I mean, I mean, yes, some of the decorative arts, there's a one-off, and it's
Sure.
crafted, and there's beauty in, I think there's beauty in the decorative arts where you can see how things were crafted. You could turn over a chair, or, you know, and that is, you know, super gratifying. I think
And the
there's some
dialogue.
history to the art. I think the
Yes.
art is a little bit more of like how is it done, and what, you know, you have to imagine. I don't know. It's all,
Yes,
love it all.
and when you do find out, you know, often if you go to artist studios or you watch documentaries on artists and you see their process, you appreciate the art even more, you know. So education to me has always been a thrilling part of what we do. And I think the dialogue between beautiful furnishings and art is really important.
Yes, it's like a musical concert, and you're the orchestra.
Yes, exactly.
Leader
I often say it's like a symphony, you know, that's what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And I think that an artless home is a soulless home.
Yes.
So, you know, that's probably my worst fear, is a client that doesn't have art and don't buy art. And I'm like, oh God,
You're gonna be like,
what
well,
I'm doing this fabulous thing, and like it needs, you know. So
yeah.
we usually get them on the journey early.
Good.
And we usually find something special early on. And but now, you know, it'll be a little more difficult because we used to go to art shows, and you know, so we have to come up with ways of doing that and having those experiences again.
I have one last question, David. You know, it's interesting to think about, you know, I think about, you know, big changes in the world and how it affects things like architecture and design, artists, right? You know, what do you think there's going to be like a, you know, like a post-COVID period that we will come out of, and how all of this that's happening it's really, we're sort of adapting to it now, but it's pretty overwhelming if you think about what's happening. Do you think about how, will people live a little bit differently? How do you imagine, sort of, when it comes to design, decoration, architecture? Do you think that, you know, there'll be changes, or you know, what do you think?
You know, being in the midst of it, you're just trying to like exist every day, right? So, but I would say that as we do look forward, I do think that there will be some changes. I'm not sure about all of the things that are going to happen, but I certainly think the one thing I'm seeing is that the home has become even more important.
Yes.
And that people are valuing that because they're not always leaving it, you know? So I think that might be a really great positive change. I think that sanitary things and, you know, kind of practical things like that, we're going to definitely see more understanding of antimicrobial things, you know, much more technically.
We'll all become more germophobic than we were before.
And I really think that's, I mean, I already am a bit of a germaphobe, so.
Me too.
So I try not to like think too much about that, because I'm already thinking too much about it.
Yeah,
so,
you gotta let it go.
But I do think that, you know, there are different people are gonna have different tolerances. I was talking with Tom Felicia my Tuesdays at 2 program that I do on Instagram
Yeah.
Live. And I found that we were starting to talk about like how you went to a stadium and how people would go and how you maintain social distance, but still have a great experience. So designers might be really needed to transform these spaces that we might not have been involved in as much before.
Absolutely.
So things like that we thought might be, different. And the experience of virtual reality, which has always been on the horizon, it's a little bit off my, I'm a very tangible person.
Oh my
like,
God, that totally, it freaks me out. I'm freaked out by robots and all
yes,
of that.
but I do think that those kinds of things are going to be more advanced because technology just moves ahead anyway, and now it'll be even more with this, I think.
Well, it will definitely be interesting. We will all be keeping our eyes, as we all do, on David Scott and what you do for design, because you inspire us truly. And I thank you so much for your time, David. It was wonderful to see you. Sending you a kiss. And
you too. Love you.
Yeah, love you too.
Be well.
Okay.
Be well. Thank you.